welcome back, my fairies. I am Matsurific, and we are back with episode 8 of Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. And this one seems like it's going to be more of a lore episode than anything else. So for those of you who are new to this channel, I like to talk about what we already know about the episode before I actually go and watch the episode, and then we'll review that afterwards. And of course, you're also going to be seeing artwork on the screen as well, so I hope you enjoyed that as well. It's just to avoid copyright. I realized I haven't explained that in the past couple of videos, yeah. So there's not really a whole lot to talk about what we've already gotten this time around. From the trailers that we've gotten, Marinette's going to find something in the museum using her Kwagatama, something that I guess is specifically for ladybug holders, and we're gonna get to see Pharaoh again, so Alex's brother is going to get akumatized, and we're going to see Joan of Arc, and she's going to team up with Ladybug. But I think the biggest thing that's going to happen this episode is we're going to get some new lore, which is always really interesting. Hopefully they finally talk about the origins of the Miraculous, because I know that's been confusing for a lot of people who didn't read the comics, especially since the latter half of the comics are now non-canon thanks to the New York special, which is a good thing. We actually talked about that in yesterday's live stream, about how that's a good thing that that is no longer canon. But the lore that we got from that is missed, and hopefully they actually go over the origins of the Miraculous in this episode. So yeah, like I said, not really a whole lot to talk about, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go watch the episode and be right back. Okay, so that ending has me a little, that sure was an ending. So yeah, this was a kind of a smaller episode in terms of plot and everything. Like, we do get some stuff about Joan of Arc from back when she was the Ladybug holder. But aside from that, there's really only one other major thing that happens in this episode, which is at the very, very end. Okay, that was definitely interesting, but and I honestly kind of wish there was a bit more to do about it, but okay. So this episode starts off with Marinette and Alia at the museum, and Tiki has told them about a way that they can talk to past Miraculous holders, well, specifically past Ladybug holders. She just has to find the little symbol at the museum and touch her Kwagatama to it and say Reunion, so she can meet with the memory of a past Ladybug holder. And she chose Joan of Arc because Joan of Arc was also in love with the past cat holder, and she wants advice about her whole thing with Cat Noir. And but that gets interrupted when Marinette bumps into a painting and finds a letter from Alex. It's addressed to her father with pictures of stuff that she's done in the past. Stuff like, she met, oh man, I can't remember his name right now. I am drawing a blank. This is why I failed world history twice. But the guy that painted the Mona Lisa, she met him and actually found out who the model was, but she promised him that she wouldn't say who the model was. So that was actually pretty cool. So they find the letter, and her father calls for all of Alex's friends to come to the museum to hear about what Alex has been up to. And then we cut to Adrian, who's having breakfast with his father and Natalie, and it looks like Gabriel and Natalie are a little bit better on a little bit better terms, or at the very least they're still pretending for Adrian's sake. But he asks them if he can go, and they're both like, oh, of course, go. It's like, seriously, who are you, and what have you done with Gabriel Agreste? My guess is that he's probably trying to, because he knows he doesn't have much time left, just in case he is unsuccessful. He's probably trying to be a better father and, spend more time with Adrian because he knows he doesn't have much time left to do that. But, yeah, he actually lets Adrian go so that he can go and, hear about what his friend's been up to. And he tries to ask Marinette out to the movies, but she freaks out and gets Alia to help her to come up with an excuse for why she can't go to the movies. But they find out what Alex has been up to, and Alex's brother has a freak out because he's been seeing a lot of stuff on social media of people theorizing that Ladybug did not actually give Alex the Rabbit Miraculous as a way to protect her, but rather just got her lost and trapped in time. So he's buying into all this conspiracy theory stuff and thinks that Monarch is actually the hero. Like, there's another theory going on online that Monarch is actually the good guy and he wants to make a wish for world peace, but Ladybug and Cat Noir are the bad guys trying to keep the Miraculous from him so he can't make this wish. So he's buying into all that, and he actually calls out for Monarch and volunteers himself to be akumatized so that he can learn the truth and expose Ladybug for the villain that she is. And Monarch, jumps at the chance to be like, oh, hey, he's on my side and he wants to help me and he wants to be akumatized. So absolutely, I'll help you. I'll give you superpowers. So he turns him back into Pharaoh and also gives him back the power of Shelter, the Turtle Miraculous. And at first I was thinking, well, but Cat Noir can always break through that. And then I remembered, oh yeah, he can use it multiple times because he's an akumatized villain, meaning that if Cat Noir breaks it, then he could just create another one, and then all of a sudden Cat Noir's power's been wasted. So I was even thinking, that's probably pretty clever. I'll bet they'll probably do that, which they did actually. So I called that part. And then, so we get back to the museum. He gets akumatized into Pharaoh, and the binder that he's keeping, which has a bunch of the conspiracy theories and stuff that. And the binder that he's been keeping, which has a bunch of the conspiracy theories and stuff that he's been looking into, that's what gets akumatized and it becomes the Book of Truth. And it traps everyone in the museum in this sort of, not really a maze, but just sort of like it sets up several barriers that you have to answer this really difficult trivia question correctly, and if you don't get it right, then you get trapped in the books. And for the most part, they're able to. I love the way that they answer the questions. Like, Cat Noir is able to answer the question because he actually knows something about horse riding. Because the question that gets Roger at the beginning, at the entrance, is, what was the color of? I forget the guy's name. I'm not looking it up, but it's basically asking the color of this famous guy's, quote, white horse. And Adrian even tells Plaque, it's a trick question, but if you know anything about horses, it's pretty easy to answer. So he goes up, he transforms and he goes up and he answers that it was actually gray, that at that time period, there is no truly white horse, except for hundreds of years later with select breeding, but that method didn't exist at that time. So the answer is that they were gray. And it turns out to be true. So it's like, yay, he used his smarts. So it's like, he used his smarts. Okay. It's like, he used his smarts. And then we get into the museum, and oh yeah, I completely forgot about the stuff with Joan of Arc. So yeah, it's like, kind of a mundane episode for the most part. But before Pharaoh, Marinette is actually successful in summoning Joan of Arc, because after she runs away from Adrian, they go and finish their business with that, and she summons Joan of Arc, who basically, chastises her for calling on her for something so silly as love problems. And Tiki basically explains it to her, like, pretty quickly. Like, obviously, she's not gonna know who Adrian is, but Tiki basically is like, I think she's using this as an excuse to run away from her feelings for Adrian. And she's like, really? You called me for this? Which was pretty nice. I liked that a little bit. They were talking, and then that's when Pharaoh did all that. And they asked her, the question that Ladybug got was, who was the king on March 15th of this certain date? I don't remember the year, but I do remember March 15th. Okay. I think probably because that was the day the androids appeared, March 15th. That also wound up being a trick question. You know, she asked Joan of Arc because she actually comes from that time period, and she goes into this long-winded history lesson that I kind of zoned out of. Like I said, I failed world history twice. I kind of zoned out at that part, but long story short, the answer was nobody. There was a whole convoluted thing going on there, but the answer was there was nobody in power on that date. So Ladybug relays the answer, and she gets it right, because nobody aside from her can actually see or hear Jonah. So she gets that answer right, and then she meets up with Cat Noir for one last question, which is, what is the weather going to be like exactly 200 years from this day? And it's like, well, the only way to answer that question is to call upon Bunnix. But it's too dangerous for Bunnix to actually appear in the present. So what she does is she uses her lucky charm and gets a pen, and then she grabs a brochure, leaves a note for Bunnix to find in a painting. So then in the future, Alex actually finds the painting, and then she goes to the day in question and sees that it's a thunderstorm. So she goes back in time to before that day, to before the present day, and leaves the brochure behind with the little symbol for the rainstorm to tell Ladybug what the weather is like. So she's able to answer the question, it's gonna be a thunderstorm, and they get it right. So they get to their final battle with Pharaoh, who, and we get that whole scene like I mentioned before with, he's got the book with hidden away by shelter, Cat Noir cataclysms it, and then he reestablishes shelter. And I like when Joan of Arc actually meets Cat Noir, and she's like, this is the guy you're in love with? He's so scrawny and skinny. It's like, it's because he's 14. Gosh, he's still a kid. Well, okay, 15 because of Rise of the Sphinx. He's still only 15. He's still a kid. Ladybug then chastises her, but he chastises her about and starts going on about some of his good qualities, and he's like, "Lady, are you okay?" And she haphazardly explains what's going on with that. But that was kind of funny. Because Alia had the same reaction earlier, like, Marinette, are you okay? Ladybug then gets the idea of telling Pharaoh to ask his Book of Truth who the real villain is. If she's actually a villain, then her Book of Truth will tell him the truth. But if Monarch is the villain, then it'll tell him the truth for that. And Monarch gets scared because he knows what that book is going to tell him. And sure enough, the book reveals to Pharaoh that Ladybug is the hero and Monarch is the villain, and then he allows himself to he breaks free of the Akuma, which is the third time we've seen someone break free of an Akuma after they've already been Akumatized. Chloe technically resisted getting Akumatized. She was the first, and then Felix was the second. I consider this completely different because I'm not taking that away from Chloe. But he breaks free of that. And, he feels bad at first, but Alex actually left him a message within the little rainstorm thing on the pamphlet. And she actually, when he reads it, he's like, lift your head up and raise your fist. And then he sees that Ladybug and Cat Noir are both getting ready for a fist bump. So he joins them for the Pound It, which was cute. And then afterwards is when we really actually start to get some actual information. In the last 5 minutes of the episode, so Joan reveals that she was indeed in love with the cat holder, but because they were both working for different kingdoms and their kings refused to allow them to be together, the two of them gave up their Miraculous so that they could be together. And that's when and afterwards Marinette talks to Alia and Tiki, and Alia's like, what happened? What did you learn? And Marinette tells her that apparently it is possible, but we might have to give up our Miraculous. And I'm guessing that's how this leads into Kwame's choice. That's actually pretty clever that, they do that right before Kwame's choice. So that actually leads into it. Of course, tomorrow's episode is going to be episode 5, so that's going to feel a bit off, especially for French kids watching who are going to see that and be like, well, what's going on here? Is she going to give up her Miraculous or not? But no, Kwame's choice is supposed to come up after this, which we already know is going to be Tiki and Plague taking the Miraculous away from Marinette and Adrian so that they can give them to other holders. And it's still unclear if they actually reveal to Marinette and Adrian that they are Ladybug and Cat Noir. But yeah. That's gonna be interesting at the very least, because we find out in episode 3 that Kwame's can only the power that prevents Kwame's from revealing their holders' identities is only for their actual holders at the time, and the reason why they can't reveal Ladybug's identity is because she never renounced them, so therefore she is still technically their holder, so they can't reveal her identity because she's still technically their holder. But if Marinette and Adrian renounce, well, no, what I was getting at is, would Tiki possibly be able to reveal Adrian's identity, because Adrian was never actually her holder? All the times where Adrian does use the Ladybug Miraculous, he gives her back to Marinette, and he was never actually technically her holder. They just swapped for that one time. So that's the good question. Would Tiki and Plague be able to reveal the other Kwame's holders' identities to their holders? Obviously, they don't do it normally because it's like, well, you can't know, because otherwise you'd have to give me up. But if they're planning to give up the Miraculous, then can they do that? That's interesting. Especially since it does seem like from the trailer that Alia is going to get the Ladybug Miraculous, and possibly Zoe with the cat, but that's not what's important here. What's important is that Alia would become Scarabella again, and because she knows who Marinette is, she could still tell Marinette who Cat Noir is, potentially. Or at least take Tiki to Marinette to say, oh, by the way, Adrian is Cat Noir, so just let yourself go be with him, it's fine. That, or they might just be like, the other possible thing is they might not even do the identity reveal just because, we still got another half season to get through. So they might just be like, look, Marinette, you're worried about being together with Adrian because you're Ladybug, so I'm going to free you from this so that you can be with Adrian, because it's obvious that he loves you and you love him. So if I free you from being Ladybug, then you can be with him and you won't have to worry about it. And I have to wonder, though, is Marinette gonna be okay with Alia having the Ladybug Miraculous because of the fact that Alia is in a relationship with Nino, that would be interesting, because it's like, how does Alia keep the fact that she's Scarabella from Nino? Like, yes, she did keep that a secret in the episode, in that episode. Shoot, I can't remember, because it wasn't called Robustus. Now I can't remember what that episode was called, because I don't think it was called Scarabella. But anyways, yeah, she did manage to keep the secret from Nino, albeit, she was stuttering and stumbling just like Marinette did. But would she be able to keep that secret for a long time? Because, that was kind of the whole thing in Season 4. She couldn't keep a secret from Nino because they told each other everything. So would she be able to handle keeping her identity as Scarabella from Nino, who thinks that she doesn't have a Miraculous at all and has no reason to be fighting Monarch at the time? So that'll be interesting to see. But of course, that's going to be for Kwame's choice, and also we might not even have time for that because they're obviously going to get the Miraculous back by the end of the series. It's still called, or by the season, actually by the two-parter. They're obviously going to get their Miraculouses back by the end of Kwame's choice, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But anyways, we still got one other thing to talk about, and that's the thing that made me laugh out loud at the end, because it was so abrupt, and I do wish that we had gotten more of this, like maybe a whole episode dedicated to it. Maybe if we had gotten some focus on Adrian in the Rise of the Sphinx special and gotten to see some stuff from his civilian perspective, we could have gotten this, because Marinette got this for her birthday. Adrian should have gotten it for his, and I'm talking about Adrian finally getting his Kwagatama. I mentioned how last episode did him so well. He got more screen time than Marinette. He was written competently, and he was just written so well. And then this episode decided to shoehorn in at the very last minute Adrian getting his Kwagatama. And honestly, I am not happy about this. It was the very end of the episode, and it's just Adrian's lying there on his bed, and then all of a sudden, Plagg pukes the Kwagatama right there on his chest, and you just look up and you see Plagg with the green spit coming out of his mouth, and then the episode ends, and I'm not really happy with how they did that. Marinette got an entire episode dedicated to her birthday, and there was this whole fanfare and everything with Tiki doing the dance and everything, and actually trying to present it to Marinette as this is your birthday present, and Plagg just pukes it onto his chest. That's it. I didn't really care for that. I mean, I guess if Kwame's choice has to be in the next episode, then that's probably going to be it, but that's probably like, oh yeah, we have to get this thing done. But honestly, I feel like they could have done that better. Because like this whole episode, like aside from the stuff with, the stuff with Joan of Arc was interesting, but at the same time, like that feels like the whole thing with Plagg giving Adrian the Kwagatama doesn't really feel deserved. I guess we'll see how episode 5 works, because if episode 5 is gonna be so insignificant that they didn't care to air it in order, then is episode 5 going to be something that we could have skipped entirely and gotten an actual episode dedicated to Adrian getting his Kwagatama? I mean, I guess they couldn't have had, like, a major plot reveal in Rise of the Sphinx, like, oh, Adrian gets his Kwagatama. But at the same time, if we had gotten some Adrian-specific focus in that game, then maybe we could have gotten Adrian getting his Kwagatama for his 15th birthday. That would have been interesting, and it would have maybe made people a little more receptive to the game. I still enjoyed it, but yeah, I do wish that they could have given more focus to Adrian instead of just making it, oh, Marinette the game. And if you choose to play as Cat Noir, that's your choice, but you could still technically play as Ladybug and ignore Adrian outside of that one mission with Max. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know. But this episode just felt kind of off to me. Like, Season 5 has been so good so far. I just feel like this is kind of the weakest episode we've gotten so far of this season. But I guess I'll let you guys tell me what you think down in the comments below. So, what did you think of this episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it kind of meh for you? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more videos from me. We do all sorts of fun stuff on this channel, including playing video games, we do art, and I'll sometimes talk about cartoons and anime. So if you enjoy that stuff, then be sure to ring that bell icon to never miss a video. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I hope you all have a very magical day. I can never get that wave right.